What's going on, everybody? This is MVP, Most Valued Podcast, a podcast embracing the American football culture. I'm Terrence Owens.
And I'm TJ Richardson. Here on MVP, we'll be giving you the real and raw conversations from current and former professional athletes and coaches. This podcast is dedicated to European players and coaches wanting to develop their knowledge of the game and culture. If you're an American football fan, this podcast is for you.
Today on MVP, we're going to discuss about the divisions, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, the comparisons, the differences between each other, and multiple other things. So, TJ, just starting off, let's just get right into it. Like, what would you say is the biggest difference between, like, the division levels?
Honestly, like the title of the episode is really levels to it.
Yeah.
Like, I think the biggest difference, it's a couple different things, but the biggest difference as far as on the field is the defense and offensive line by far. I think it's not so many super athletic, big guys to go around. You know what I mean? It's a rare thing to find somebody so athletic, so physically gifted at that size, you know what I mean, that's able to play at that high of a level. So I think the main difference between the divisions is the number of super athletic and good sized offensive and defensive lines is probably the biggest thing. And I would say the athletes on the field, receivers, linebackers, running backs, and maybe quarterbacks maybe play a difference too. I think maybe D1 quarterbacks may be a bit different too. Like they might have another level to them as well.
I got you.
But most of the skill positions, I think they're comparable at all the levels for the most part.
I think it goes, for me, just in my opinion, I think it's all around the board if we're talking positions. I mean, obviously I agree with the offensive line, D-line, because these are our biggest guys on the team. But I think all the way around, I'm just using myself as an example. I went to a Division I school in the MAC conference, but again, I feel like that I didn't receive those higher Division I schools just because of my size. So if we talking about size, I think it goes on every position. I think like the lighter you are, like as far as like on your weight or your height, I think that makes a huge difference. Or if you're gonna go Division I or D3 or D1 AA, things like that. So I think it's your size, man, because I was always, tall, skinny guy. So I knew like I was very talented. I was talented enough to play anywhere. But at the same time, like, again, passing that eye test, coaches not looking at me like, I don't think this guy gonna make it, through one spring ball. For sure.
The measurables definitely play an effect for sure on the whole thing. I just seen so many times where when you go play a school, like, somebody, and say if you just go 7-on-7, then it's like it's hard to tell the difference between the schools. Like then it's like, all right, there might be really one physically guy where it's like, oh, he's just like physically different than everybody else, like a DK Metcalf, a receiver, where it's like, all right, he's just monstrously different. Like, okay, but normally it's you have a lot of different size people, at a lot of different levels, so guys can kind of play, comparable to each other at the skill positions. You know what I mean? For me, like that for me is more comparable. Of course, I think you have more guys that pass the eye test to go D1. I think plays a big factor. Like being able to pass that eye test, that's what really gets you in the door. Like if you pass the eye test, it's like, all right, well now let's see how good you play after you pass the eye test. Right. Like I think that plays a major factor as well.
And for me, talking about the eye test, this is what I don't necessarily agree with about the eye test, just because again, you pass that eye test, get your foot in the door, go Division I, and now you're not even a good player. It's a lot of guys that play D1, bro. You'll be like, this dude is terrible. Like, really, like, terrible. Like I've been around a lot of, athletes, and I think, like, that eye test sometimes, like, a lot of people get looked over. For sure. So, because you got a guy that's not so big that doesn't pass the eye test, but he's definitely the better athlete, than the guy that actually passed the eye test. So, I think it's really not. It's not fair at the end of the day, but I guess life not fair. So.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think when coaches see the players, they're like, they feel as though like we can coach this person to be that good. Like, all right, you give me. We can't coach this frame or this size, but we can coach you to be a better player. Like we can make you. We have the coaching staff. We have the strength and conditioning coach, where we can make you into what we want you to be. We can mold you into that, but you got to be this size first and to be what we need you to be.
Yeah, most definitely, man.
So it's unfair, but I mean, I guess that's the way it goes. You know what I mean? But it's good because you see a lot of times, just as many times as you see guys that are, you know what I mean, that don't that look the part that don't play well, then you see guys that don't look the part that play really, really well.
Yeah.
A lot of players, you know what I mean, a lot of levels where it's like, yeah, if I would have just seen you on the street or if I seen you in high school, I'm sure I wouldn't have thought you would be this good. But when you get on the field, it's like, oh, this is a playmaker. Like, this is the difference maker.
Yeah, you make a great point. That being said, that point that you just made, you know, we had a guest on here, Eric Page. He was one of those guys. You know, for an example, like, you know, the first time we came into Toledo together and, you know, we had our summer workouts and, you know, our one-on-ones and things like that. And, you know, this guy's about, 5'6", you know, short guy.
Okay.
And, you know, at that time, you know, we had the big shorts, you know, the big shorts. And this guy just looked at I'm like... Like, this is one of my guys in my recruiting class. You know what I mean? I'm looking like, man, who is this dude? Man, this dude look funny. Like, but this dude lined up and his routes, he's looking crisp. So, like, just like you said, bro, like, it's a lot of guys that don't look the part, but are really those guys and really they can play in ball, man. So it's just, again, that perception, like we've been talking about perception a lot, though. Yeah. Perception, you know, is everything. But again, sometimes that perception can be perceived like in the wrong way, and people miss out on opportunities
for sure
that way. Let's go towards you know, previously before we started you know, talking on the podcast, we were talking about scholarships and like how does that work as far as, you know, Division I scholarships and Division II, Division III scholarships. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean that will be probably the second thing that I think makes the biggest difference is the number of scholarships that you're allowed. I know a lot of people don't know this, but at different levels or different divisions, you're allowed a certain amount of scholarships. So when you're at the Division I level, it's 84 full scholarships that you're able to give out. At the Division II level, it drops off significantly to 36 full scholarships. Wow. And then when you get to the D3 level, then it's 0 sports scholarships. You can still get grants and get like academic things like grant money through academics, but no sport, you know what I mean, money or scholarship. So that in itself plays a monstrous role because if you have 84 scholarships to spend on your team compared to 36, what's the level of players that you can get? You can offer your second string, you know what I mean, defensive end, you know what I mean, a full ride scholarship as well, where in D2 it's like, all right, we can offer our first string DN probably a 60% scholarship and have to spread that between the rest of the D line. Like, you know what I mean? You really gotta really play with the money, really budget the money, and of course that's gonna make a big difference for people because college is expensive. It's super expensive. Nobody wants to pay to go to university. Like, it's a lot of money. Where if you have the option to go to, you know what I mean, a school that can guarantee to give you a full ride scholarship, then you know what I mean, you're gonna go there over a D2 or especially a D3 where you're not getting any money at all for athletics.
Yes, and I really didn't know about the scholarship, like how many scholarships you can get when we're talking Division II, Division III. I thought, like, you know, all the scholarships were the same, but it does make sense because, again, when we talk about the different divisions, we talked about earlier as well about the stadium size. Like, you know, the stadium, how many people that you can put into the stadium, you know, reflects on, you know, what division you're in.
Exactly.
Or how many in high school, at least. It was like how many students are in your school. Like, if you have a certain amount of students, then you are Division I. The less students, the lower the division you are. So because now when I was in high school, we had like 1,500 students, so we were considered Division I. Now, my same high school down to this day, like, we at Division III now, because like it's less than less students there now. So I wonder if that's how it is. Do you think that's how it is in NCAA?
I mean, I think that
as far as students, I'm not sure if students play a factor. I'm sure maybe to an extent, maybe, but I'm not exactly sure what number would really make a difference. I know the high school thing I definitely know because my school at one time we did by class sizes by A's. So we were like when I was in school, we were a 4A high school. So we had like 2,000 students. So we were a 4A. Now we're like a 2A high school. So depending on that really made the difference on what level you played against and then what level of competition you played against. Because usually the teams, when you're getting 4, 5, 6A schools, those teams got a ton of students. So they got a ton of money. So their facilities are on another level, you know what I mean, and their training's on another level. And I think that kind of that idea translates to university level because then when you have a stadium that could seat 90,000 people, well, then the sponsors that you're getting, the boosters that you're getting, the money that's coming into the program, well, it's way different now because now you're getting real people, real companies to sponsor it. So now your facilities, which is the next factor, which really plays a difference. Now the facilities that you have on your campus,
are significantly different. Like that really plays a different. I'm sure you've seen like these college tours of like the facilities and the locker rooms. Like it's crazy what some of these schools have. Like I saw Oregon,
a little bit too much. Yeah,
a little too much. Like where it's like Oregon got a barbershop in there. They got like, you know what I mean, just you can get like multiple pairs of shoes or different clothes and like 10 different alternate uniforms.
It's like unlimited. It's
unlimited
like
everything.
Things,
unlimited gloves, except like you got a ton of things like that. Your weight room is ridiculous. Like you know what I mean? The facilities that you can offer, even rehabilitation, you have like whirlpools and rehabilitation centers that you can really put time into really developing athletes, nutrition centers specifically for athletics, like
and specifically for that actual sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in Toledo, for an example, when we had like the when we did the rehab, things like that, like we shared. I mean, we had our own training room in our facility, but like when it came to like the after surgery rehab, post surgery, we all shared all athletics shared the same facility. So now you got like the SEC conference, like LSU, these Oregons and things like that. They have their own like facility. Like, they don't share that facility with no other sport after college. So that's a huge difference if we're talking about the levels of
for sure
of the divisions, things
for sure.
like that.
You get like special nutrition training, special rehab, special strength and conditioning. Like that's another level that you can really get these athletes to. You can, and that's what we're talking about. You can really, you know what I mean. Now I got the frame you need. Hey, I got everything I need to mold you into what I need you to mold you. You know what I mean, what I need you to be, because I have everything here. You know what I mean? Exactly. Every single thing. So
and going back to like the differences, I just think again, it's all about the resources. I think from Division I. The highest Division I level on conferences is all about the resources, unlimited resources. In the MAC, we had a lot of resources, but again, we are still a MAC conference, not the most. We're not bringing in a lot of money as a SEC conference would be. So, I mean, yes, I would say that we had a lot of resources, but it wasn't to the extent like like Ohio State, things like that. And going like transitioning, how do you think or feel? The athletes that come from these Division III schools, D1 AA, how do you think they feel when they play, against that, University of Florida? Like, is it like more something to prove? Like, just because they got that chip on their shoulder because they're at that,
I mean, and that's me. Like, I'm a Division II guy. I played in the best Division II conference in the country, the PSAC. So, I mean, if you want to argue with me, you can go ahead and hit my line. But, we do this for real over there.
So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, like when you come from a D2 or a D3 or even D1 AA, like or some of these smaller conferences, like you get overlooked. People kind of always talk about the big D1. Like, did you go to Clemson? Did you go to Florida, Alabama? Like people think like, oh, because you didn't go here, then you're not that good.
You ain't played that big boy.
Yeah, you ain't played big boy ball. Shout out to the boy John, like LaSella. Like you ain't played big boy ball. So if you ain't played big boy ball, then you not it. Like you not that. So I think for me, and I think for a lot of athletes, when you get a chance to go against those guys at the higher level, it's like, oh, I'm right at your neck. Like, I'm really coming at you. Like, I feel like you definitely have something to prove. You definitely have a chip on your shoulder where every time you see them, every time you go against them, like it's a certain kind of fire that builds inside of you. So it's like, no, this is for everybody that said, you personally didn't do anything against me. You, the other person from the D1 school, you did nothing to me. Exactly. But for everybody that ever said anything about about not being able to play at that level or being D2 or being D3 or whatever, like you're gonna pay for all the things that everybody else said, whatever everybody else did. So you getting all of that. You getting my hardest jam. You getting my hardest coverage. I'm really on your neck. Like I'm really at you super hard. So I think people who go to smaller schools have a chip on their shoulder and it's almost impossible to get off. Like even to this day where it's like,
I agree.
You know what I mean? To this day where it's like, all right, I've played against, people at every level, and won and competed and done my thing, like, and where I felt like, all right, physically at this point now, whoever lines up against me, you're going to lose. You're not, nobody really messing with me, but still to this day that it's that idea that, oh, you went D2, like that, it never leaves you. Like that kind of, that
makes
spirit.
sense. It makes sense just because, again, me being at a Division I school, but being in the MAC, it was still like we had something to prove when we played those the out of conference schools, Big Ten Pac-12, SEC. Like when we played those schools, I felt like like those schools was looking down at us
Yeah.
as if we were a D3 school.
Yes,
so
exactly.
like I can only imagine an actual D3 or D2 school would feel about playing the SEC school or even a MAC school because again, when we played like New Hampshire University, I don't know if they were D1 AA or
D1 AA, I believe. Yeah.
So like we were like, oh, we about to go smash this guy just on the strength of the division. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's kind of strange because again, like we were just the same team that would just look down upon on Ohio State, but now we're doing the same thing with a D1 AA.
That's what happens, and I think it's like it's the psychological thing when people put so much emphasis on what division that you go to that it really plays on people's psyche because then not everybody has that kind of competitive spirit where they're like, okay, well I'm going to go play against this D1 team. I'm about to go ham against them. Some people are like. Oh shit! This is the D1 team. D1, big, they're big. They're so good. Like we can't beat them. Like what I mean. There is that mindset. Not because what you saw on film, but just because they're D1. Even if you saw no film, like just you're mentally defeated, and when you go into that for a lot of people. And I think majority of people kind of have that mindset, especially if you don't play sports. People are like, oh, you went D1. Well, they're automatically better than those people. And that mindset is just ingrained into people.
Right, and that's definitely not necessarily true because you got a lot of guys that go D1 but still don't know the game, still don't know how to break down film, things like that. So,
definitely, and sometimes it's not always about, and people have to understand this, like where you go to school is not necessarily always about your ability. Right. You know what I mean? Exactly. A lot of times you get put in situations where it's just like you're just in the right place. Like you're in the right. I know people who've gone to, powerhouse Christian programs where it's like you're not that good, but because you're on this powerhouse Christian program at this Christian school, like all right, you're automatically getting your offers or you're getting these looks or these schools are coming to go see you at practices or at these combines. True. Like not necessarily because you as an individual were that good, but you're just bred in the environment where like, okay, everybody in this environment is going to succeed. So it's not always necessarily based on, this person was that great. Sometimes you may have a famous family member that was an athlete too, where it's like, this is
you're gonna get some type of recognition.
Exactly.
On the strength. Yeah.
This is I mean, not saying Deion Sanders' son not good, but if this is Deion Sanders' son or cousin, no, I'm not saying he's not good. This is Barry Sanders' son, Deion Sanders' son. Like, we gotta go D1. We gotta offer him something just because of the name. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of factors. Outside of football, how you look, what school you went to, who you related to. Absolutely. They even ask you those questions like, are you related to anybody like in your player bios? They'll ask, like they'll put that information in there. So those things really play a big difference. They really play a factor.
I agree with you 100%. Just on the strength of, I went to a powerhouse high school. And again, I was like, I consider myself a great player. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm confident in myself. I know I was that guy. At the same time, we had multiple guys that were on a whole nother level. So I felt like I was in that, situation on that team that I benefited from. Just because, we had a great coach, obviously. But these players going to Ohio State. So, like, I feel like I benefited off of that versus if I would have gone to another school, let's just say a school that wasn't so successful. Yes, I would be that that impact player on that team, but maybe like I probably would have went a whole nother route. My whole route would have changed just because I didn't have those weapons around me to make myself successful to go to a Division I school. So I agree with you 100% though. I definitely agree with you 100%. What I wanted to ask, or I don't know if you know this, I always wanted to know what's the difference between like a D1 AA and Division II, because I really don't, because I know, D1, D2, D3. Yeah. But when you get to D1 AA, like what? I don't get it. I don't really get it.
Honestly, once again, it has to come down to, I'm assuming, like stadium size or, you know what I mean? Something to do with the financial and monetary thing. Like, not necessarily like how they play. Because there's times where D2, we play D1 AA schools or they come and play us wherever. It's like.
And it's AAA too as well, right? D1.
No, I don't.
AA or AAA? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it's just like, D1 and then D1 AA.
D1 AA, okay.
So that's how kind of goes, or FBS and SCS. You know what I mean, kind of thing. So, like, honestly, once again, I think it's a money thing. I think it's like comes down to like stadium size, scholarship number, things like that. I think those things played a factor because, once again, when you look at it, like, really, what's the difference? I'm really not sure.
How often did you guys play D1 AA?
Like once a year, like that'd be your out of conference game.
Like
yeah, so once a year you might play an out of conference game. You might play like a University of Delaware or a Towson or somebody like that. Like
so what was that like the competition like from a D? Because I mean we played like Coastal Carolina.
Coastal Carolina.
I mean they were I guess in the D1 AA.
Yeah, D1 AA.
They were supposed to be good, but like again we looked down upon them and we whooped them at the end of the day. Like they were trash in my opinion, but I think everybody we play against is going to be trash. Just on the being biased, type of thing. But
I mean, for me, like when we played those teams, it wasn't much different from playing like a really good Division II team. Like I said, we were in the best Division II conference in the nation.
Okay,
stamp that. So when we played like teams like IUP or Cal or Slippery Rock or Shepherd, like these are. These are top level teams. So when you play them or Westchester, like when you play these teams, it's like it feels like you're playing that kind of team, like a D1 AA team. It's like we had the same score, like it'd be the same score if we played them or if we played University of Delaware or if we played Shippensburg. Or, you know what I mean? It wasn't much of a difference there. I mean, of course, like once again, the offensive defensive line depth is definitely different. Like, the tight end position is definitely different. They have really they have some better athletes at that position and definitely more depth. Whereas like, okay, they can go deep there, whether it's kickoff, kick return, like every position has, it's no like slacking. Like everybody's got good players, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like, you guys are that much better. It wasn't like, I felt like I'm playing, somebody out of my reach.
I got you. So a quick question. Have you ever seen like a guy who has passed the eye test, for an example, on a Division II or Division III level?
Definitely. And I think a lot of those guys come down, like end up falling out when they'll go to these big schools
and transfer.
Okay. And transfer.
But besides transfer, because I mean I'm aware of the transfer. Yeah. They're not happy there and they want to play. And they end up going there. But let's say they didn't even get that offer from that Division I school.
Yeah, I definitely seen guys where it's like, and for whatever reason they didn't go because they went to a school that wasn't good or they played somewhere where it didn't get a lot of exposure.
Okay.
Where it's like, if somebody would have seen you, you definitely could have went D1. If somebody could see like how you play or your size and your build, like because on the team it's like if you look at the starting lineup, you'd be like, oh no, that's a squad. Like they got. If you look at the starting line, now the depth may not be there, for the second string, but if you look at the first string, you'd be like, oh okay, they got
solid.
Yeah, they solid. They got a good line. They got a DN that's 260, They got, D lineman, their interior D lineman 285, 300. So it's like, if you see it, you be like, oh, okay, they got some size. Like they look good, but the depth, the drop off after that, it'll be, pretty severe.
I got you. So I think like in conclusion, like the biggest difference I would say, and that's again all around the board, like the higher the division, like Division I, all the way down, it just the players get smaller. Yeah, I would say that, and I'm just speaking on Division I from conference, like the conference, like the biggest conference to the smallest conference, like the players get smaller. Like for an example, the MAC conference versus the Big Ten conference, it's a huge difference when you're talking about looking at an athlete. Yeah, we played Ohio State a few times, and just to even compare our O lineman to that O lineman, me as a quarterback to the other quarterback, things like that. It's like. It's really a huge comparison as far as the size goes.
I feel that, but I think it really depends on the section of the country that you're in. I think that plays a big part because if you look at SEC and Pac-12, you know what I mean, you would think that could be D1 or D2, like D1 versus D2, So Pennsylvania, Ohio area is bigger boys there. So when you look at us, it's like, you wouldn't look at us on the field and be like, you'd be like, they got size, like they're there, but. You know what I mean? Always that depth isn't there. So that plays a factor in it too. Like how many guys on your team are running a 4-3? Like now that'll make a difference too. Like how many guys. So where we may have one or two guys running 4-3, 4-4, mostly 4-3, and you might have 7, 8, 9 guys running 4-3s, 4-4s. It's like, okay, well that difference is there too. Like that the measurables, you know what I mean, might not be the same. Like the timing and the numbers, the combine results will look better at a Division I school most times than you'll see at a Division II school.
That is true. But at the end of the day, whatever school you at, Division I, II, III, D1 AA, if you ball out at the end of the day, like the scouts will find you. You will. For sure. they gonna find you. That's their job to find you. Like I'm talking NFL, that's their job to come find the best talent. So it don't matter what division you at. You just got to ball out at the end of the day.
Yeah, you got to do your thing on the field. I mean, you got to do your thing in the classroom too. And when you get the opportunities, you know what I mean, in these camps and in these combines, you got to take those things because they may not always see you. Like the real thing is like there is a difference in, you know what I mean, exposure that people get. You know what I mean? The more exposure you get, you're more likely to get a better opportunity or to be seen. So you got to put yourself in the best position to be seen. If there's a camp, if there's a combine, if there's an ability, if there's a chance for you to go against somebody that's a 4 or 5 star athlete or whatever they're ranked, like you got to go take that because that's how you get seen. There's a lot of times where, you know what I mean, we went to go play a school where the scouts came to go see the guy from that school, but all right, I balled out or somebody on my team balled out and it's like, wow, that guy got a scholarship, but he came to go see the other guy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you got to.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
That happens a lot of times. A lot of times, but like you got to jump off when you play against bigger opponents. Like you got to play bigger. Like you can't get soft against those guys because that's where your opportunities are going to come from. Use somebody else's fame, somebody else's exposure to your benefit.
And just like you just said, like we had that a lot in our high school. You know, one guy was going to Ohio State. You got a million like college recruiters. You know, just going to the game for him. But see me play. You know, I'm balling. Other guys balling, then okay, damn, who is this guy? Okay, now I'm on the radar.
Exactly,
So
that's how you get it.
Yeah, that's how it works at the end of the day, man. So.
So you got to stay on it. Our special guest today is Mr. Cecil Shorts III, hailing from Cleveland, Ohio. He was a 4th round draft pick out of Mount Union University. He played for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a wide receiver. He was a 2-time First Team AP Little All-American, D3 Offensive Player of the Year, also a D3 National Champion. So we're going to talk to him today about the difference in levels of football and competition and about his time in the NFL and some advice he has for people coming up in the ranks in athletics.
Let's start off, you know, as I talked to you, you know, previously, we wanted to talk about you playing at Mount Union at a Division III school. And I wanted to start off with asking you, like, what do you see is the difference between, like, D1, D2, and D3?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think it's a few things, right? Yeah. Number one, I think the biggest difference is the offensive line, defensive line.
Okay.
Right? If you look at the Division I type of schools, if you look at, for example, Toledo, your average offensive lineman was what? Give me a height and weight of your average offensive lineman was at Toledo.
Well, average would be like a 6'3" guy, like 280. You know, that's like an average. Like it wasn't Big Ten, but we had a pretty solid line at Toledo in the MAC.
Right now, Big Ten, what would you say it was? About 6'3", 6'4",
yes.
Probably what 320.
Yeah, but 320. Yeah,
definitely
muscle,
Big Ten for sure.
There's more monsters out there. Like the average at Mount Union probably was 6 feet, 6'1", 230. Okay. You see what I'm saying? 240. Yeah. So to me, the biggest difference would be offensive and defensive line. Like defensive linemen, we're not going to see Clowney at Division III. We're not going to see a J.J. Watt. We're not going to see a Aaron Donald. You know, those guys on the defensive line. And then the offensive line, you're not going to see like a Joe Thomas. You're not going to see this guy's that big, that natural, that big of an athlete at that level. In my opinion, I think you can find a skilled guy anywhere, right? Okay. If you look hard enough, you can find a quarterback, a receiver, and DB that you can plug and play or eventually groom to be a guy. But as far as the biggest difference, in my opinion, from my experiences, it's been O-line, D-line. Those boys are something else, man. It's incredible. Okay. How talented you have to be at the offensive tackle, especially in defensive end.
Okay. And what would you say about the competition? Like, how does that differ?
Overall, well, from Division I to Division III?
Yeah, D1 to D3.
Overall, in Division I, it's deeper. You know what I mean? It's guys that are, you know, this is the way I look at it. There's guys that were all conference, all state, all this at every level, right? In high school, you were the man, you're the MVP of your team, MVP of the league, you're all state this, you might have been ranked here. Some guys fall, some guys go where they're supposed to go. Mm-hmm. So the biggest difference I would say would be speed and depth.
Okay.
It's a lot of very good guys. I'm gonna keep using Toledo for example. I got a lot of ties to Toledo or Ohio State. When you look at Toledo, it's depth there. So you might have your starting 3 receivers. One of them goes down, you can fill in with another guy that can come in and play right away.
Yeah, next man comes
at Division 3, if you get a guy that comes down as your superstar, your next guy you're kind of iffy about. You're not sure that he's ready to go. You know what I mean? Just not as deep as it would be at a Division 1 school. If that makes sense. And then come speed wise, it's pretty much it's slower. It's so much slower.
Okay.
It's a high school. It's a little bit above high school. It's not high school speed, but it's right above high school speed. But it's definitely not Division 1 type speed where you'll see guys flying everywhere and anticipating and have a better understanding of what's going on. So depth and speed probably the biggest differences for me.
Okay, I could definitely agree with that for sure. Did you ever feel like when you were playing, like you were playing against competition that was below your level? Like, did you feel like week in and week out, was there guys that really made you compete, that really made you work? Or on average, week in and week out, did you feel like you were better than pretty much everybody on the field?
By my junior, I'll be honest with you. My first year I redshirted. Mm-hmm. My second year, I was the number 6 receiver. It was 5 seniors in front of me. I was number 6 receiver. I didn't play that much.
Okay.
My third year is my first year starting at receiver. And I came in as a quarterback. So my first year starting as a receiver. And basically that year, I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. Like at the end of that year, I'm like, it's over. I think that year was like, I don't know, 1,500 yards, 23 touchdowns. It was something crazy. I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. So my junior and senior year, if I didn't have a 100 yards each game and 2 touchdowns, I felt like I failed.
Okay.
Like that was my goal each week. So to answer your question, it was below average. Now, when I got in playoffs, you saw some dudes. Like, it was some dudes where it was like, all right, they can at least try to compete with you. But to be honest, my junior and senior year, it was over with. It didn't matter who was on me, who was checking me. I'm doing what I got to do because it was in my mind. It wasn't nobody that could stop me. But in reality, too, it probably wasn't nobody that could stop me either. If that makes sense. It's just too far and it's just too in between. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you might have a team that's really good, but they're just average as individual players.
Okay.
It wasn't too many guys that it was a corner that could shut me or whoever else at a receiver down. If that makes sense.
Okay. I feel that.
And I don't want to sound like I'm braggadocious or I'm not.
I'm keeping it real. Like we're trying to keep it real and raw.
You keeping it real.
Division 3. Like to me, I had to prove I didn't belong.
Okay.
So my mindset was like I said, if I didn't get 100 yards and 2 touchdowns each game, I'm like, all right, I got to make up for it next game because I got to prove. The only way I was gonna make the league is I had to dominate. It wasn't just be good. It wasn't just be all conference. I had to prove I didn't belong at all at this level.
Right. I understand.
So that was just what was going on in my head, and it kind of was reality a little bit.
Okay. Well, when did you transition from receiver, quarterback to receiver? Because I know you played QB in high school. So when was that transition for you?
Man, it was. Sorry if you hear my son in the background. He making a little noise, but it was. So my freshman year, I was there as a quarterback, and there was a guy there named Greg McKaylee. And, okay, so Mount Union, the school I went to, is like the Alabama, the Clemson
of D3.
Of D3, yeah. You know what I mean? We go to the championship pretty much every year, or we're in a conversation every single year. So when I went there as a freshman, I was a quarterback, and I'm thinking, okay, this grind, you'll get a shot to compete. Well, it was a sophomore there, and he ended up winning the starting role on the varsity because at Mount Union is varsity and JV, so he winning the starting role at varsity like mid-season, and he ended up, long story short, winning the D3 Heisman. So I got hurt that year, and they're like, listen. I just was an All-American in track, so they were like, "Hey, how do you feel about playing receiver?" And I'm like, "Nah, forget y'all. F that. I'm not moving to a receiver. I came here as a quarterback. I think I'm, your mind says I can compete. Let me compete for it." But it was no reason for them to change. He was good at what he did. He just won the D3 Heisman, led the team to national championships. It's like there's no reason for us to change. I'm sorry. Like so, the best way for you to get on the field is to play receiver. So I was like the 3rd string quarterback and the 6th string receiver, or number 6 on the depth chart as a receiver, my redshirt freshman year. So that was the real year I kind of like changed to receiver, and then a dude named Pierre Garçon got drafted in the 6th round, going into 2000, I think 8 it was, and that was the year I was a full-time receiver. So 2008, all the seniors that were above me left, and then I came in, and that was my first year as full-time receiver. And that summer was crazy because I had to learn the position. Like as a quarterback, I knew where I needed to be.
Yeah.
But as a receiver, it's about getting there in the best way and creating separation at the top of your route and the bottom of your route. One thing about playing receiver, a lot of people think, oh, I'm not fast enough. No, it's about being able to create separation in your route. How can you get open? Right? Can you get open at the line of scrimmage? They press you. And if they are, playing great defense, a lot of teams that, especially the higher up you get, a lot of good DBs can run with you or understand the game. Can you create separation at the top of your route and get open for the quarterback? So I had to learn how to do that. So that full summer for me was nothing but grind, and really made that transition, I guess, in my redshirt sophomore year.
Okay. Now we all know at the big D1 level or even big D2 level, like the facilities are really amazing. Like they have some really great facilities. And Mount Union being the pinnacle of D3 football, like what were the facilities like there? Like what were the weight room, the field, practice field, like classrooms, like what was it like there?
That's a good question. It was to be honest, it was really good. It was really good. We had 4 practice fields over there.
Okay.
Now I believe 2 of the practice fields are turf. And then we got 2 smaller practice fields, and they're like, 30, 40 yards.
Okay.
They're grass. But the facilities are awesome, man, especially for a D3. We got a full indoor track.
Oh, okay.
Stadium holds about, I guess, $7 to $8 grand.
Okay.
We have a nice indoor weight room that's about 70 yards in length. And then width is probably about 30, 40 yards. So it's definitely a legit program for Division III. I would say one of the creme de la creme as far as facilities. But I tell you what, I'm in Texas now, and I've seen some high school facilities. Oh my God!
I can only imagine, man.
Oh my gosh! I mean, number one is like 10 to 15, possibly 20,000 at any given game.
Crazy.
And the facilities are like better than my college. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Y'all out here really living. Like, so if a kid come from Texas football, I'm like, yo, y'all really spoiled.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, if I think for Division III, it's pretty solid. And, of course, Division I is amazing. But Division III is definitely solid. We don't have like a particular strength and conditioning coach on staff, if that makes sense.
So how does that work?
So there is a guy that might be the linebacker coach that runs it. Or the head coach that might run it, but there's not like a strength and conditioning coach really on staff. So that's like a big difference from Division I to Division III.
Let's transition to the combine. When you went to the combine, like what was that feeling? Coming from the D3 school at Mount Union, being around like all the other elite athletes. Like, did you feel like it was any type of pressure on you coming out of Mount Union, going to the combine?
I'll be real with you, man. So, at D3, we watch all the Division I games.
Yeah.
So, we might play college football, but we're still cheering for Ohio State or Alabama or Florida or wherever you're from, like wherever your favorite team is.
Okay.
So after our game, we would go in the dorms and we would talk trash and root for whoever we're watching. So I'll watch Cam Newton on TV. I will watch, all these people on TV. So to see him at the combine, I'm gonna be honest with you, it was surreal at first. I'm like, yo, I watched these dudes on TV, like, what's good?
Wow.
I had to check myself. I'm like, yo, you belong here, right? Because I was there as a fan. When I seen the guys, I was there as a fan, right? When you're training for, you're focused. When I get there, it's like, yo, I watch these guys on TV. These guys are like superstars to me. And I had to check myself, like, listen, you belong here. You're here for a reason. So seeing Julio Jones, I came out in 2011, I think it was. To see Julio Jones, like A.J. Green, Cam Newton, all these guys, right? J.J. Watt, see all these guys at the combine, and we're there together, and I'm with them. It was surreal for me. And coming from a D3, I'm like, yo, I got to get my mind together. Like, I had to check myself.
That's a crazy class, bro.
It's a dope class, right?
For real.
But it's like I had to check myself, like, yo, you're here for a reason. Let's get to it. You gotta go out here and perform. Simply because nobody really knows who you are. You're here for a reason. They invited you, but you still got to go prove yourself. You still got to go, go out there and make a name for yourself. You got to go out there and perform well to get, your stock up as high as possible. So I really had to check myself, man. It was surreal for me. It was tough for me, but the overall process was pretty cool.
Okay. Was it any pressure, or it was just more of that self check for you?
No, it was pressure because I felt like I had the whole small school family like on my back. You know what I mean? I felt pressure. I felt pressure that I had to put on to make sure, like, hey, there's other guys in Division III that can play ball.
Okay.
There's other guys at small schools that can play ball. You know what I mean? And then, of course, the natural pressure of you wanting to do good.
Yeah.
It's nothing like you're about to run a 40 or run routes with Jerry Jones in the stands looking dead at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Or with, John Harbaugh over there looking at you. With Mike Tomlin. You know what I mean? Like, guys that you, like, oh, wow, this is for real.
Yeah.
And they shaking their head, or they taking notes down, and they looking at you, and you got meetings with different teams. So it's like when you're at the combine, you're meeting with different teams in different rooms, or and it was some meetings where it was just me and the whole coaching staff. For example, I met with the Cowboys, and it was the whole coaching staff in there in this room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they were like, why should we draft you?
Okay.
You're Division III. Like, what are we doing?
What was that? What was that response from?
Why would we draft you? I'm like, 'cause I'm a dog.
Respect.
I was just like, I'm a playmaker, period. I don't care what level I'm from. You put me on the field, I'm going to make plays.
Right.
And they kind of laughed or whatever, and it kind of broke the ice. But that was tough. That's pressure right there. Like, that was like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, that was another surreal moment for me where I had to, like, I could have folded. I could have been like, well, I don't know, or stuttered or whatever. I'm like, nah, just be yourself.
Okay.
And that stuff, it's a lot of pressure at the combine. It's basically made to make you fail, right? In my opinion, it's like you got a P test real early in the morning. There's all these meetings and all this stuff going on, and they want to see you fight through adversity.
Okay.
They want to see how can you perform when adversity and pressure is on you. And so it was definitely a lot of pressure, man.
Okay. Now, when you made it to the league and you found yourself on a roster, like, did you feel like at that point where you underestimated, like, all right, you came from a D3 school, you made the roster, you know what I mean, you're on the team, but did you feel like people were still like, he's a D3 guy, we don't know, we never saw this guy before, like, did you feel underestimated?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Like, guys were, even when I was drafted, guys were on the team I was drafted to, like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
Why did we draft this guy? You know what I mean? Like, you would hear different rumblings in the locker room. 'Cause my rookie year was a rough year for me.
Okay.
I only had, like, 2 catches, and I didn't get those 2 catches until, like, later in the year. It was an extremely rough year for me. So guys were like, we wasted you would hear rumblings, like, we wasted a 4th-round talent, or we wasted a draft pick on this guy, or just because where you're from, they'll look differently at you.
Okay.
Right? It's because where you're from, they'll be like, okay, can he play or not? But at the end of the day, all that matters is your product on the field.
Yeah.
So for me, my rookie year, I battled with that. Listening to everybody else, focusing on tweets and what everybody has to say instead of focusing on my game, if that makes sense. So it was definitely a mindset where I felt like people underestimated me. And even going into my second year, which ended up being my best year ever, I'll never forget. I was so we had let me think. My rookie year, Jack Del Rio got fired, and Mel Tucker was the guy they put in place just for that year, right?
Okay.
The interim head coach. After that, they let him go. So we got a new coach coming in, Mike Malarkey. He came in that second year, so it was a whole new coaching staff, whole new receiver coach, everything, right? Like he comes in, and the receiver coach writes down the depth chart. I'm the last person on the depth chart.
Okay.
And matter of fact, he forgot to put me on the depth chart.
Damn.
So it was like, yo, who is this kid? Where's he from? He had no film really last year. Oh, okay, we'll put you at the bottom. My bad, I forgot about you. So going into that year, I'm like, I got to prove myself each and every day because you're underestimating me, because y'all don't believe that I can play ball. So I had to go out there, and one of my goals at practice was each day, whether it's on special teams, whether it's catching the pass, whether it's blocking, whether it's simply knowing my assignment, I have to stand out each day. How can I make a play that stands out each and every day?
Okay.
And that was the only way for me to be able to make that team and be able to have a great year that year, because I definitely was the underdog, or, overlooked, overshadowed. But I tell you what, once you start making plays, and once you get on that field and line up, it don't matter. It don't matter where you're from. It don't matter. It don't matter what's going on. You gotta go out there and prove yourself. And if you can play ball, you can play ball.
Okay, I got you. So, Cecil, I want to switch gears a little bit. We from the same neighborhood, so I want to talk about, you living like literally 3 minutes walking distance from Glenville. I want to ask you, like, so what was the reason why you didn't go to Glenville? What was that reason, or was it because because I know your dad, he was a head coach at Collinwood. Was it the reason because your dad was a head coach, you wanted to play for your dad, or what was that reason?
It's crazy. So my dad went to Glenville. My uncle went to Glenville. Like you said, I literally could walk to Glenville every day.
Yeah.
When my dad was coaching there, and he was coaching there, and he was a gym teacher there, I would go to work with him.
Okay.
So he'll take me to work. I go to all the basketball games, all track, everything, baseball. So all I knew growing up was Glenville.
Right.
And then he got a head coaching job at Collinwood.
Okay.
And there was no other choice. Like, it wasn't even talked about.
Okay. It's a no-brainer. Yeah, I got you.
So it was like, you know what I mean? It was just a loyalty thing on my part. But, like, my dad, he always wanted to coach me. So I even bring it up, hey, can I transfer here or whatever like that. But it would have been like I guess a childhood dream to go to Glenville.
Yeah.
Just simply because that's all I knew growing up, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like I don't want to offend anybody at Collinwood. Y'all my brothers. My sisters over there. But I grew up knowing everything about Glenville. Like that's just what I knew. You know what I mean? That's my dad went there, my uncles went there. I knew, I'll be over Coach Gian's house playing with Lil Ted and all that. That's just what it was.
Right.
So I'll be at practice with the Water Boys. So that's what I knew growing up. So when I went to Collinwood, I'm like, my mind shifted. Okay, it's everything about Collinwood now. So I was loyal to my brothers there. We grinded, we worked. But y'all had a special thing going on over there, man. It was real.
Yeah,
it was a special thing, especially in the heart of it. Like I don't know what year to what year, but it's certain years that it was like year after year after year after year.
Yeah, I want to say like 2004 to 2010. I want to say it was like that frame, and then from
y'all
there,
was rolling, brother.
Yeah.
And it was special to watch. Now I love competing against y'all.
Yeah.
On the track and football. And football, y'all kind of pounded on us a little bit.
Kinda.
Y'all used to pound on us. No, it was all good. y'all used to roll through us. It is what it is. Y'all was deep. The closest we came to y'all was my senior year in 06. And it was 14-12 at halftime. And we all pumped. We all excited, right? We had PH, and the PH was packed.
Yeah.
And we like, man, we got these boys. And then that second half came. And it's just like y'all had a whole nother side. Like y'all turned all the way up on us.
Yeah,
End up whooping us like I don't know, like 40-something to 12 or something. But y'all boys are deep, man. Y'all had something special there. I admired y'all for real. But I used to love to compete against y'all, man. At any sport, it was special. Anything Collinwood, Glenville, it was fun.
Yeah, most definitely. But real quick though, again. Do you consider yourself like a neighborhood hero coming from, where we come from? Because, again, you definitely, from coming out of Collinwood going to Mount Union, again, for an example, divisions don't even matter. Just coming out of, Collinwood, it's very hard that you see, guys, athletes getting scholarships out of there. Would you consider yourself like a neighborhood hero? Because I personally consider you, one of those guys like you and Ted, for an example.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know. You know what I mean? For me, I just try to. I just work to try to get out, make the best out of my situation. I try to give back when I can. I don't know about the neighborhood heroes, as I think that's something that I'll leave up to everybody else to talk about. But it's definitely a blessing to hear that from you, and especially being the same. I wouldn't say category, but it's the mission with Ted. I look up to Ted.
Yeah.
He is somebody that I admire since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that he's still going.
Exactly, yeah,
he's still playing at a high level, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
14, 15 years in.
Yeah, year 14.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing. So he was somebody that I tried to be. Him, Troy, Pierre Woods, Curtis Terry, there's many others. I tried to emulate them as far as make it out and be successful in some type of facet. And those guys kind of paved the way for everybody in Cleveland. You know what I mean? I think we all looked up to them in a certain way that, hey, if these guys can do it, why can't we do it? Or why don't we try to do it that way? It was a special time. It was a special time when Ted and Troy and Dante were all at Ohio State and they were showing out. Yeah. It was a special time to be from Cleveland.
Yeah,
like you were like proud. You know what I mean? No matter what school you went to, no matter if you were from the suburbs or whatever, you were proud. Like, hey, I know I played against them guys. I watched those guys. They representing our city. So to be in that category is pretty cool. I appreciate that.
Most definitely.
Okay. What advice would you give players coming from lower levels? A lot of people say that if you come from D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, that you don't really get the opportunities to shine and really play, to showcase your skills. So what advice would you give from players coming from lower levels of football, lower divisions?
You got to dominate. I think we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, like to really get noticed. And if your aspirations is to make it to the next level, to really get noticed, you got to prove you don't belong.
Okay.
You can't just be good, right? You can't just be an all-conference player. You can't just be a good receiver or a good DB or a good offensive lineman. You have to dominate your play. Mm-hmm. You have to be the guy that the other team circle like, hey, this guy is the guy we have to stop. We have to slow him down some type of way. You got to prove that you don't belong, right? And you can't just be good. You got to truly dominate. And then another thing too, enjoy it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think too many guys are so focused on where they are, that they're trying to maybe transfer or prove this and prove that. Just enjoy where you are. You have the opportunity to play football, to play college football, no matter where you are. Truly enjoy it, because many people that play high school, you probably can cut that in half, and many people can play college.
Right.
Yeah. So you can cut that probably even more half than many people that play the next level. So just enjoy it. You know what I mean? Truly enjoy the game. Because once it's over, it's gone. Ain't no going back to it. So if you, no matter what level you are, enjoy it. And if you want to shot at the next level, you truly got to dominate.
Okay. I feel that. Yeah, I think that's real right there. I appreciate that. That's real talk. Cecil, we have one last question for you. We ask every guest on here. We want to know, what does the American football culture mean to you? What has it done for you in your life?
Man, it's something about football. American football, for me, that taught me discipline. Mm-hmm. Taught me how to fight through adversity. It taught me how to handle success, how to handle failure. Taught me how to prepare, how to plan. So it's taught me life lessons that helped me to become a better father, a better husband, a better friend, mm-hmm. A better coach, no matter what. It teaches, it's lessons in the game that we can apply to everyday life. And I for me, I feel like I'm in debt to it. You know what I mean? That's why one of the reasons I coach football, because I can impact kids in that way. But the game is teaching them also the same things. Mm. And it's awesome to be able to play. To me, it's the best game in the world. I'm not sure how they feel about that in Poland, but it's the best game in the world. And it's exciting to see. So, man, I appreciate y'all having me on today. Yeah. This was a lot of fun. I'm rooting for y'all. And y'all continue to make that impact, man.
That's it for today's episode, folks. We appreciate you tuning in with our interview with Cecil Shorts. Remember to like and subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Remember to like and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Hey, everybody, if you feel like you have anything you want to say to us, comments, criticism, feel free to comment under our pictures or our profiles. Send us DMs. We always want to get better every week to bring you the best content in the nation. Stay with us. We appreciate all the support. Peace.